Hello fellow children and welcome back to another Mount & Blade 2 Bannerlord developer video, and this week we are talking about the Captain mode. Now this is something that we have actually seen quite a lot of in the past. At Gamescom 2017 there was a lot of gameplay and information shown in this game mode, but today we're going to be going into more detail about what it's actually about, how you can get into it, how you can play it, and the best strategies, and basically what this whole game mode is going to be based on and where its place is throughout Mount & Blade 2 Bannerlord. So without further ado, let's get straight into the video. Quickly before I get into the video, make sure you check the links out in the description to go into Aniba Games. You can get some great deals on pretty much any game. I mean, Kingdom Comes Limited £17 and it's like 40 quid on Steam, so it's sort of a no-brainer. All the Total War games, pretty much any Steam games, but not even just Steam games, any platform, Xbox, PS4, whatever. You can click the links in the description and support the channel. I mean, Mount & Blade, the full collection is like £3 and that's got everything in, so I mean, you might as well. Make sure you go and use code RESONANT to get a 3% discount, links in the description, and if you register now, which you don't have to, but you can, you also get another euro off it. So that's something you can do if you have the time and want to support the channel. As I mentioned, it was shown a lot of gameplay at Gamescom in 2017, and that's all the stuff you'll be seeing in the background of this video. Of course, Captain Mode is a multiplayer game mode with 2 teams, like most of the game modes we'll be able to see. Although making that point, I'd love to see some mods of having like big free-for-alls with like multiple teams at once. But each player has their own detachment of AI that you'll be controlling. Now this is a lot like other stuff we have seen. There was a mode very similar to this in with Fire and Sword, and of course the Commander Battle in Napoleonic Wars, where 2 teams could pick what troop they wanted to control, and you'd have some AI that you'd be able to issue commands, a bit like a mix between the single player and the multiplayer together. But the difference with Bannerlord is the scale. This is a much larger scale than we've seen in pretty much any other game before, especially in the Mount & Blade franchise. This doesn't actually tell us the size, which is something that's beginning to be a bit of a theme, with them telling us how big these battles are going to be, but not actually giving us any numbers, which is becoming a little bit of a pain. But we do have some sort of idea about your squad sizes, just not how many people will be on each side, each having their own squad. But let's talk a little bit about an interesting mechanic that's being added into this campaign mode, and this is the morale mechanic. This is tied to how well you're doing in the battle, your AI, and of course, and how close you are to winning, but also tied to capture points that are placed throughout the Captain Mode multiplayer map. You take these control points and you have to defend them, and of course, the more control points you have, it will take away some of the opponent team's morale. Now, this is probably balanced on the number of capture points you have, rather than how many people you have on these capture points, how quick it is, but I expect the more capture points you have, the quicker it's going to go down in terms of the enemy's morale, and if their morale is completely depleted, then they will rout from the battlefield, issuing you a victory. But also, there are other ways of winning, which of course is probably going to be the most common way, is just destroying the enemy team, charging into battle, making sure that you mop up all of them. But what happens if you die? Well, a bit like other game modes, you have 1 life, but there is a bit of lenience in terms of the player. In terms of AI and the guys you control, they only have 1 life, so as soon as you spawn in with your squad, that's the squad you're going to have until the end of the round. But if you as your character dies, you can actually respawn as one of your bots upon death, which is something that we've seen in things like, once again, Napoleonic Wars Commander Battle. This is great because it means that you're not going to be sitting out as soon as you die and just watching AI slog at each other, which is a little bit weird for a multiplayer game mode, so I'm really glad that they've put this in. But when you get into the Captain mode and you have this squad, you have as much control in this Captain mode in multiplayer as you would do in the single player battles. You have full control of your troops, issuing commands, changing formations, sending them to different parts of the battlefield, and so on. Also, when you die and take control of your AI soldiers, you can still issue all those commands, and bit like a commander battle in Napoleonic Wars, as I mentioned before. But what about the factions? Well, of course, you have all the 6 factions that you can play as in the multiplayer. You're able to take them into this game mode, and within these factions, they have all the troops that you would expect: archers, cavalry, swordsmen, spearmen, shield guys, anything you can think of, and you can use them throughout the battlefield in Captain mode. You can pick a unit and you'll be able to take them onto the battlefield. Now, of course, that does come up with some issues with balancing, which I'll get onto a little bit later. But because there's so many factions, you have to get to know them. You have to get to know which ones are great for your type of play style. But as I said, each faction has their own unique units that can be controlled in the Commander Battle and being completely different in terms of advantages and disadvantages, and also counters to each other. Having a very vague sort of rock rock, paper, scissors effect throughout the battlefield. Spearmen, good at taking out cavalry. Archers, good at taking out non-shielded infantry, and so on. This whole rock, paper, scissors attitude towards this captain mode is going to be very important, but of course there can be exceptions to this if tactics and the right strategies are put in place. But as I said, in terms of balancing, this does mean that not all troops have the same numbers. For example, if you have light infantry, they're pretty weak when it comes to fighting cavalry or heavily armored troops. This means that you're going to get more of them. They do use as an example 30 men in a squad, and then you can also in the same match have a detachment of heavy cavalry, which of course are more powerful than these light troops, meaning you only get 12 in your squad. So it sort of balances it out, meaning that it evens out all the stats and numbers of each of the units, so not one player can completely overpower another. But this does not mean that the light infantry has no chance against these heavy cavalry, and this is where it comes on to finding that balance between your own fighting skill and your tactical knowledge, using your troops in the most effective way possible. It all comes down to, in conclusion, the captain mode being the perfect balance between a single player and a multiplayer, with having that control of your AI and your soldiers with formations and tactics and battle maps and all that good stuff, but also bringing it into a multiplayer environment, fighting against or working with other real people. I think this is going to be really interesting and really fun to get our hands into when it eventually comes out. But what do you guys think about this captain mode? Make sure you leave a comment down below, and if you want to see more Bannerlord news, make sure you hit that subscribe button, as it will be coming out as soon as it happens. And we are getting into the summer, which we all know is more Bannerlord content for everyone. Yes, I know Gamescom is coming up. Maybe we'll get something at E3. They're not going to E3, but they might release something at the same time. But definitely Gamescom they are going to, Tale Worlds I'm talking about. So I'm almost 100% will be seeing more gameplay and maybe even some more interesting stuff that we might not be expecting. But thank you so much for watching, guys. Remember to hit that like button and subscribe. But until then, I will see you in the next one.